Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Full Spectrum D&D podcast. I almost forgot the title again. I did it last week, and then I did it again this week. It's, I've only
Don't
hosted.
go on autopilot. Start again. Go on autopilot. As soon as you hit that, you get through that. Here we go. All right.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Full Spectrum D&D podcast. It's our third episode.
Yay! Third time's a charm.
My name is Trey,
I am Ryan.
and we got some stuff to talk about tonight, but I guess we should start off with corrections.
It's just becoming a habit. No, I just think we a little bit undersold. You don't never pay for D&D again. That's going to be the new title.
That's the title of this podcast for sure.
Yeah.
That is a great clickbait title. I love it.
Yeah, never pay for D&D again. Starting a new Reddit page.
Oh,
D&D bets. The sticking it to the man.
D&D bets.
This podcast is off to a great
I'm
start.
loving it. I'm loving it. Should we mention before we get into the corrections of the stuff that we've said that the audio should be better this time?
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate you putting down like the professional musician part underneath that. That was rude on that. But you can't see I've got paid a couple of times to play some music. That's it.
Hey, that to me, you're a professional.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah. There's nothing professional about me.
I'm trying to imagine this is complete derail already. I'm trying to imagine anybody thinking either one of us is professional.
Yeah, right. This is not what they said they were talking about. That's all I'm saying. I would say it was clickbait, but this is not very good.
Please continue. Why should you never spend money on D&D again?
Okay, I'm going back to. I think in the way you put it in our first podcast was, if somebody wanted to start playing D&D today with no money, and so I think I'll walk through what I think it covers everything.
Right.
And honestly, it's like I said, they're not sponsored by it. It's just such a good tool. And so D&D Beyond, which we did talk about,
right?
But there's just so much you get with it. And I know we did cover a little bit this, but just to kind of break down, just with that alone, you run any adventure you want.
Right.
There are some other things that are tools, but really it's so much. You have the basic rules, which is a nice little chunk of the player's handbook. Yeah. And that's free. The Sage's Compendium.
Right. This was new to me. I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah, and it's a nice layout. I still think that Roll20 is worth signing up for to get the combat layout, the way they do it. But they took the rules that people were having problems with understanding 100%, and they just lined them out and clarified them a little bit more. So that's really handy. It was 6. We got that right. That's create and progress, so you can use D&D Beyond to level up. Yep. And you get some printout sheets, some stuff and blank sheets you can print. I think it's 6 for free. We've also got you can create a campaign, join a campaign. Right. Create 8 encounters. Now, this is a really good tool for a DM.
It's a good number, too. 8?
8, yeah.
You can roll around between those and have a pretty nice setup.
Well, I think so. And we talked before about, you hit that sweet spot in 5th edition. If you play your campaign at 10th level. Yeah. And you have a range of encounters you can make through 8 encounters. It's more than enough for a whole campaign.
Oh, yeah.
You can, if you're doing other things in there. So it's, the new player guide breaks down some stuff good to look through. Some free adventures. One of them being a critical role adventure.
Yeah, which lets you play around with the Dunamancy, which looks really cool.
Yeah. Now, that is set up for like 7th level. Yeah.
Might be a little much for if you're just starting today.
Yeah. Might be a little bit if you're starting today, but after a few sessions and you kind of feel comfortable with it, definitely something to look into. So I think that's really cool. Of course, we talked about the dice rolling. Yeah, is right there. I think you get 1, maybe 2 sets of dice.
And you got a bunch of different options for that too. You have Google you can roll dice in. Yeah. You have Discord you can set up a dice bot in.
Absolutely.
I think you can even roll dice in Roll20 for free without a subscription. So you
Oh,
have a
that's cool.
ton of options, but D&D Beyond is
cool.
probably the easiest one while you already have it up. And I feel like we should specify again, we are not sponsored by D&D Beyond, but
At
if
all,
they
no.
want to sponsor us,
Absolutely.
they can shoot us an email over at thefullspectrumpodcast@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
But they have a good service.
They really, really do. And they're kind of branching off. We'll talk about that too a little bit. Some of the other things they're doing with Discord and everything. But we spoke about Don John and donjohn.bin.sh.
Yes.
If you're a DM, I don't care if you're a fuddy duddy grumpy that hasn't got past second edition.
Yeah.
Go do yourself a favor and go to the site. Just so many tools. It's
so much you can do. Treasure trackers, encounter builders, like I said encounter builders, but when I say encounter builders, I mean like full on.
Yes.
How many enemies? How many minions? Do you even want minions? Yeah. When you get into the treasure stuff, you get into like uncommon, common, legendary, money. How much do you want in scrolls? You can just set it all up, and it runs all the tables for you. Yeah. Wild magic tables. Great.
The dungeon builder is alone.
Yes, absolutely.
Just for kind of sparking ideas. Mm-hmm. It'll populate it for you. You don't have to use that population, obviously.
Right.
But, you can kind of get an idea of what you're looking into. And to be honest, the way I think it seems to me lined out in Don John, I get a more challenging. If I take the ideas that they use, if I do that, and kind of go from the numbers that they're putting out, as far as challenge rating and which is a little bit deeper. We're talking,
Yeah. We got to have a full discussion on challenge rating
action
at some
economy
point.
And everything. It's much more balanced what they do. True. But donjohn.bin.sh.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one more we just find out about if you're not playing with people. Owlbear.rodeo. It was made.
Should probably specify if you're not playing with people in the same room
right,
with you.
If
you're playing with aliens or animals.
Yeah, right. Like that. Then why do you need dice? You're
good to go.
There. You're good.
If you have taught a dog how to role play,
yes.
Look, all I'm saying is if that dog is a good fighter, I want that dog at my table.
That's right. We can bring the buttons over.
That's right.
So they can go over and hit and let me know what their next move is.
That's right.
Not that.
Please continue. I'm sorry. I saw an opportunity. I had to take it.
No. As long as they're willing to tank. They're more welcome at the table. Not that.
Hey, all I'm saying is there are some tables that I would have probably rather had a talking dog at than some people.
And look, he can come over here. He wouldn't be the first player I've had that went outside and peed on the tree. So, no problem there.
There was a very inside joke I was about to tell, but I'll let you continue instead.
Okay, probably a good idea. But owlbear.rodeo.
Yes.
Now, I believe this will incorporate into Discord, but even if not, if you just have a way to speak to your players,
right,
on that, this will work. And this is so basic. It is you go to the website, you hit start game, you can kind of set out just a nice little map. Some of y'all are way smarter than I am, and I'm sure 10 minutes messing with that, you'll be able to do all kinds of things. Upload your own maps. It's all free.
It has all the basic features that Roll20 has. But it's like the very basic version of them.
Yeah.
But like you said, no cost.
Yes.
You can get people in right away, browser based.
Yes.
Almost anything you could do in Roll20. You can import images, import tokens. Almost anything you can do in Roll20, you can do with Owlbear. It's just the bare minimum of that thing.
Yes.
But it does the job well.
Absolutely. I think so. And then you send your the URL to your players. And it's not something you set up your whole campaign on.
Right.
You set up your counters on it, things like that. Give people, you can do. I think you could do a really good dungeon crawl on it. But you send the URL to other players. They're working off. It's browser based. There's not connected through a server. Everything's saved on your computer. So if you go to another computer, you can't log in with your subscription or your registration or whatever and still have everything.
And that is one big benefit to me of Roll20. Because again, I don't want it to seem like, I know we've talked a lot about not using Roll20, but I use Roll20. We've talked about not using it because we're trying to look at it from an economic standpoint.
Absolutely.
But I do think the extra features that Roll20 has and the ability to log in on any computer that you find makes Roll20 worth it. But again, if you're just starting today, don't
Yeah.
immediately go buy a subscription to
Yeah.
Roll20 and a bunch
Yeah.
of tokens, and try out Owlbear. Give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Definitely check it out. There was one more thing I was going to add on that for Owlbear, and it just went out of my head
That's my fault.
when you were talking.
I had to come defend Roll20's honor. Okay, I'm the Roll20 defender.
Roll20 definitely has its place.
If Roll20 wants to support us, they can contact us over at fullspectrumpodcast@gmail.com.
And I don't use one of those, so if any of the others would like me to use one of those.
That's right.
Anyway, it's Albert Robert. I just found out about this week.
Yeah.
Very interested. Created during the campaign. Created during the quarantine.
Yes.
For people to be able to play online and be able to see what was going on.
And that's super great, right? To make a free service like this when you know people need it.
Absolutely. And just like Don John, it's got a little donate button on there. Mm-hmm. And if you're capable, do it.
Buy him a cup of coffee.
Yeah, buy him a cup of coffee. Good. I think that kind of covers. But please go explore. If you're listening to this, and that you think of a really good free resource for D&D, please put it down in the comments.
Absolutely.
So other people can see it, so we can see it.
Absolutely.
Because our end goal of this is to get people playing this game.
Absolutely.
At any time, and ain't nobody got a job. You got nobody money, anything like that. So try to get in the game, and hopefully, if you enjoy it, you will put money into it.
Yeah.
But you never have to.
Right.
And I think that's just unbelievably cool.
Oh, for sure. And I think there's this weird stigma of if you want to play D&D, you got to have all the best stuff, and you got to have all your expensive toys. No, start off small.
Absolutely.
And if you like it, build up. Because if you don't like D&D, that's okay. Yeah. There's a bunch of other systems, which at some point we're going to have episodes on, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Oh no, I've been scratching the Shadowrun Second Edition itch of that, going through that.
We still got to talk about Mouse Guard at some point. So
yes.
As soon as I can secure that book, we're going to talk about Mouse Guard.
Oh man, there was another one that flashed by today as I was doing a little research.
There's a new one too that I want to dig into called Valors or something like that.
Okay.
That looks really cool. That's powered armor.
That's not the Jazza one.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, that's before you said something, I knew the name of it. I don't know. It's gone.
Which I'm sitting here trying not to go. And if Jazza would like,
I mean, if he wants to sponsor our podcast, look. All I'm saying is, if Jazza wants to invite us on for a special where he explains the rules of his Cogent gaming,
okay.
If he wants to invite us on and explain the rules to us, and we have a session on there, that's all I'm saying. I'm
well, it's because I like Jazza.
Yeah, I do too.
Just great personality. He was made for TV, which is awesome. So and he does some really cool stuff. But for this, it's his partner.
Yeah.
And it makes me go,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Because that guy, he wants realism, I do believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it?
Shadowversity.
Shadowversity.
Yeah. I really want to dig into Cogent roleplay at some point. We need to have a special episode on that.
Well, as I was going, what's funny? As I was going over Shadowrun Second Edition rules, I was like, this, you could play Warhammer because it's all 6-sided dice.
Yeah.
And it's not, I know you got strict set terms in Warhammer, which you have to have.
Right.
But there's I don't know. It's kind of reminding me of how it rolls, so to speak.
I think there'd be a really interesting discussion there at some point too of war gaming versus tabletop gaming and the differences.
Yeah.
Because I do think there is this stigma between the two of I'm a tabletop gamer. I'm not a war gamer.
Right.
And I think there doesn't have to be. I think that can crisscross much easier than people think.
Absolutely. I think one thing on that though, I was about to make a Leonard Skinner, Neil Young joke, but
most of our audience is probably too young for that.
Right. So it's not going to matter anyway. I don't know what Tom Beaver and Second Direction or whatever. Did they have a rivalry?
But I play both,
Well, I think it's a time thing, honestly.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, because especially when you pick this up, the little side it makes it. The video game industry has this word they like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Resonance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their way of saying, you go outside and mow the lawn, and while you're mowing the lawn, you think back to your character.
Yeah.
Both tabletop, whether you're playing like that, I believe when it has that resonance.
Absolutely.
It's going to stick with you through the week. You're going to think about it. If
Mm-hmm.
you're, if you have a Warhammer battle that comes down, you have one guy standing on a hill, and that's the end of the battle. Dude, you are going to, that 5 years later, you're like, yeah.
My first game that I played with my little brother Cade, because again, I've taught myself how to play Warhammer.
Right.
My first game that I played with my little brother Cade, he went to school the next day and told him it came down to one roll.
Yeah.
He will tell that story forever.
Absolutely. And see, that also works in the role playing games.
Absolutely.
We're going to. So there's a connection there. Honestly, like I said, I think it's about time one, and there are some people out there that they want that simulation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they want a battle, and it is not. They don't want to battle across Candyland.
Yeah.
They want realism. They want it simulation as much as possible.
I think if you're ready to move on to our next topic, I think that actually ties in really closely to what we're going to talk about tonight.
Absolutely.
Of what to expect and how important a session zero is to a campaign so that your players and your DM know what they're going for. Because we've talked about it before. There's grimdark campaigns, there's gritty realism campaigns, there's meat grinder campaigns, there's heavy role play campaigns, there's low magic campaigns. You just run down the gamut, basically. But you need to know right off the bat what you're doing. So, Ryan, if I was to ask you, what is a session zero?
Well, it's before you run your campaign. Think about it. Think about it for movie night. Okay, if everybody comes over for movie night, and you have, let's say, a horror movie, and not everybody's a horror fan, that's not going to be a very good movie night for everybody.
Right.
So beforehand, you're going to get and talk to everybody and say, let's pick a movie, and that's in a way that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah.
With this, that's probably the simplest way I can put it, and that's all it is. They'll sit down and spitball ideas. Then you kind of construct how this is going to play out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that that can get crazy. That can be strict. That can be really simplified. That can be complex. It gives everybody a level playing field to start out with. So we're going this direction.
So if I wanted to play today, do I have to have a session zero, or can we kind of just start? I mean, everybody made their characters at home, and they bring in their sheets with them. We can kind of just start, right?
Yes and no. If this is your first time DMing with your players, don't tell them. I tell you, if it's your first time doing your playing, and you don't want to try, you want to get into playing without doing a session zero, have them pick up the pre-made characters.
Yes.
And do the simplest, shortest adventure you can find.
Absolutely.
Have them go battle something, and go back home and sell their stuff. However you want to do it, real simple like that. And it's a great way to learn.
Yeah.
Now, that's a one shot. You don't have to have a session zero for a one shot.
Right.
And if you don't understand these terms, one shot just means it means what it says. You're going to do this one time.
Yeah.
This world. Make all your characters 5th level. They're going to battle zombies at a roller coaster,
right?
Or, something like that. But if you're going,
could be fun.
Yeah, it would. If you're going to do an extended campaign, I think session zero is vital.
I agree
to carry it out, because if you're sitting there as a DM, you've got this great story, and you really want to kind of carry the story. No, not railroad your players, not force them into anything,
right?
But have them write the story with you and kind of move it along, float along. And your players really want to kind of, just be outlaws or bandits, and they want to, go into town and get jobs and, to hunt like that. Once again, you're going to have a problem. So so session zero is the best way, I think, to kind of get your table in sync, so to speak, as in order to start.
If you're a DM and you want to have a session zero and your players don't understand why, link them this video, give them the timestamp.
Yes.
If you're a player and your DM doesn't want to have a session zero, do the same thing. Because I agree. I think that session zero is vital. Again, we talked earlier about your types of campaigns. Like you said, maybe your players, maybe the whole group has come together. All they love to do when they play video games is play farming games. That's what they enjoy.
Yeah, I see.
They come to D&D, they want a chill experience. They want to be farmers. And you have a whole campaign set up about them going to kill a dragon. You might have a problem. They might not. You're going to be laying out plot hooks, and they're not going to grab them because they just want to go farm.
Yeah. That's that at one point has derailed a lot of campaigns. Trying to get through, especially when you have different players.
Yeah.
Now we'll talk about different kind of players at the table, because some people if they don't have, like I said, they don't have an 18 in strength on their fighter, they're gonna be bummed about their fighter.
Right.
I don't like it, but there are those people that may want to play at your table.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of lets you know what everybody's looking for. I will say, as you probably won't get this when you start out, but as you learn to go along, there will be players that just don't fit at your table.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's, and
it can be really hard sometimes to figure that out. And then when it does, it's we don't jive.
Right. And it may just be at the table.
Yeah.
That's a really strange thing.
Be great friends otherwise.
Yes. It's a really strange thing. And, that you'd be willing to say, I don't think this is the game you want to play.
Right.
And Session Zero will do that, and before it gets out of hand.
Right.
And then other things could be planned out.
Yeah.
If you want to run that kind of campaign, maybe we'll do that at a different time.
Right.
Or we'll try to work something out. Or can you run that? And we'll see if we can get some more players for that.
Another thing I think is important to mention, too, is your goal is not to find something that everyone will be ecstatic about, because you're not going to do that.
No.
Your goal is to find something as a DM or as a player that everybody's good with. So if, as a DM, you have this whole campaign planned out and you get to that Session Zero and your players are like, yeah, we're really in it for the combat, but you have a whole heavy RP-based campaign written up, maybe dial that back, but not all the way.
No.
Don't give up completely on that.
No.
Instead, go halfway.
Okay. You're walking along the dock trying to pick a boat with a group of people.
Yeah.
Not everybody. You're not going to get the boat you want.
Right.
But you find the boat everybody agrees on and is comfortable with and can work with, and that'll work out. If you can get that kind of mentality and they're saying, okay, we're gonna get this going.
Yeah. To use our farming example, maybe you talk to your players and you're like, well, that wasn't really what I had in mind, but we can make this work. You still want them to kill that dragon,
right?
But you find a way to make it matter to them. So then your conversation becomes, okay, yeah, your crops are growing great, but hey, you've got a warning from this dragon. He's going to be coming into town.
Yeah.
And he's going to burn all the fields down because he's in a bad mood. You got to go stop him.
Right.
And then they have the option of, okay, well, we're just a bunch of farmers. They could go hire help. They could go discuss things with the dragon.
Yeah.
They could go kill the dragon.
Well, see, that is the beauty of D&D, right?
Absolutely.
Right there. Because there's all those options.
I just noticed my mic fell down.
That's all right.
It's okay. I got this. Keep going.
Vamp, man, vamp like the wind.
It's still falling. Keep going. I got this.
No, you can approach it any way. Now, I think that's where tabletop for me shines a little bit better than video games. I think video games are catching up to that, and they really want to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Say, okay, you can do anything you want, but the that's got to be coded in. That's got to be set and done. And with D&D or any other tabletop, really, it's not
right
on that. So you do have 1,000,001 options to go take care of this.
Well, that's where I think it's that half and half of what do the players want versus what the DM wants.
Yeah.
And when you hear all the horror stories, which I think at some point we need to have a discussion on, because horror stories about DMing and D&D have driven so many people away.
It has, and there's always and there was always a reason. Usually it's that guy's not right. He wasn't right in that. Man.
Right.
That's not the way it is. Yeah.
You know what I think causes almost all the issues? They didn't have a Session Zero.
Well,
If they had a session 0, they'd have been able to figure it out. I guess that's the next thing we should probably bring up is social contract.
yeah.
Because I feel like session 0 allows you. You mentioned sometimes people just don't jive at the table. Session 0 lets you figure that out real quick.
Yes.
If the entire table is like, we don't want any sexual stuff in the campaign, and one
Right.
person's like, oh no, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Well, maybe. But maybe we can find you a group somewhere
Yeah.
else.
and I feel like
Do that.
as a DM or as a player, you need to be willing to say at that session 0, I don't want sexual stuff.
Yes.
I don't like the idea of us being murder hobos.
Well, it's not. It's,
You know?
it doesn't even have to be about that much.
Right.
And now
We can fade to black.
I can. Well, like in combat.
Yeah.
Sometimes if y'all get a whack in,
Yeah.
I will describe the damage that does.
Right.
And around the table, I've seen the grimace faces, so I'm doing a good job.
Right.
Some people may not want that.
Right.
So if you're like, if you it's like I don't really want the explanation, everything's
Yeah.
going on.
If you're a little squeamish, you
Yes.
don't like the idea
Yeah.
of the DM describing, hey, I'm gonna cut some arms off here.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
well,
Yes.
and don't be afraid to say that. If you're at a
True.
table where people make fun of you because you say, hey, I've got a weak stomach, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
You should play at a different table.
Yeah. There's players out there, and like I said, with the resources you have for free,
Mm-hmm.
it might take you a little bit.
Yeah.
But I honestly, we want y'all to love and this podcast and
Yeah.
thumbs up and everything. But there's so much information out there, and I do believe some of the bigger D&D channels, if you can get in their Discord, will have try to help people find groups.
Yeah, absolutely. LFGs are really popular right now.
Yeah. All of that. Which I imagine, I'm sure that works much better in a bigger city than it does.
Oh yeah, I bet.
The more rural
Well, and
areas.
even like Reddit D&D LFG, I think is its own subreddit now.
That's really
Of
interesting.
like people trying to find groups.
That's pretty cool.
And again, when you're finding groups online like that, you're gonna find some groups that don't fit for you.
Absolutely.
Do not be afraid to leave. This is not the 80s or the 90s anymore,
Yeah.
where the only group you got to play are the same 5 people. So you got to put up with some stuff.
Yeah. especially playing on online through
Mhm.
Discord or Zoom or
Yeah.
one of the many other things that you can do with that.
Well, and even Roll20, you can look for a group on Roll20. You can put, as a DM, you can put, I'm looking for a group, or as a player, I'm looking for a DM.
That's interesting.
So there's a ton of options to find groups now.
That's cool. But still have the session 0.
Yes,
have
100%.
it.
Most
Okay.
important thing. Your campaign will be vitally different if you have it versus if you don't.
We got yeah. Well, I did clarify. Maybe a one shot, you don't have to worry about it as
Right.
much. Maybe not session 0, but I would still when you're playing the time for that for doing
Yeah.
one shot. I'd still plan at least 30 minutes to an hour.
I agree.
To discuss beforehand.
I agree.
Just this is the way it's going to be. This is how we're going to
Mhm.
run.
Well, and even then, you have so many, not to just dig into the optional rules now, but you have so many optional rules that have to be
Yes.
discussed before the campaign can start.
I was actually going to ask you about that.
Hmm.
So a very, very basic session 0.
Right.
We're starting out with the free stuff. So the
Yes.
basic rules. What are some things you may kind of bring up and go through in this, kind of line it up, like
Yeah.
for example, classes and things like
Right.
that. What are some of the things, some of the high points you think should be hit in a session 0?
First question I always ask in my session 0 is, what are we looking for from this campaign?
Okay.
Because that gives everybody the opportunity to be like, well, I want to do this, or I want to do that. Especially new players that
Yeah.
don't know a lot about D&D can go, I just want to have a good time. And it's like, all right, I know what to do with that as a DM.
Right. Yes.
My second question then is, how are we handling encumbrance? Because that changes
Yeah.
everything in the campaign. With the third question finally being, what do we want? I guess how I word it is different for each group, but like, do we want synergy in our classes, or do we just want to let everybody do whatever?
Yeah.
Because I don't mind either way. I think synergy is a whole lot easier on the players.
I think that synergy is actually easier on the DMs.
That's
as
true.
well.
That's true. No synergy is tough for both parties, but
yeah.
sometimes
But-
that's what people want.
It is, and really, if you the starter set basic
Mhm.
classes are balanced. That if everybody takes something different,
Yeah.
you've almost got a good balance. Group.
Absolutely. And I guess we should
Anyway.
explain when we say synergy, we're going to use older terminology here, I'm sure, but we mean a tank,
Yes.
we mean a DPS,
Right.
we mean a controller,
Yeah.
and we mean a support.
Yeah.
And that support can be a healer or that,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
tank being a barbarian or a fighter or a paladin or a cleric, technically.
Yeah.
Uh,
A heavy armor cleric.
DPS being rogue, monk, wizard, although wizard's also controller.
Why?
Yep.
Rangers. Rangers nowhere on the list, but you
No.
can still play it.
No. Controller being wizard,
Yes.
sorcerer,
Yeah.
to a lesser extent. Wizard's like the big controller, druid.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And then support being bard, druid, cleric. And I guess, I almost called him archivist. What is it? The new.
Artificer.
Yeah, artificer. Yeah, like realistically, synergy is very useful, but you don't have to have it.
No.
It makes it a whole lot easier on everybody. But
It does. It does because you start filling your role,
Mhm.
and you kind of that you don't have to worry about doing that because they're doing that.
Right.
And you can do this, and it does. It works out. Also, I think it helps kind of solidify the group a little bit. Too.
Mhm. But those are my three immediate ones. There are other questions like, hey, are we confirming crits?
Right.
Stuff like that. What homebrew? What house rules? Do we want to allow homebrew? Do we want to allow house rules?
Yeah.
But encumbrance is the big one that we almost moved past. Encumbrance is an optional rule
Yes.
with D&D Beyond
Yes.
and with just 5e as a whole.
You can cut off encumbrance. I usually don't run encumbrance.
I'm the same way.
Just because usually the players I have, usually the players I have now that work with are not going to take advantage of that to a
Right.
ridiculous way. And it's there's enough going on that's not going to add anything to the game.
Right.
You know, if we were running survival,
Yes, which is why I asked that
Absolutely.
question second.
Yeah.
Because if we're running encumbrance, then this whole campaign is very different.
yes,
We're
Yeah.
we're going to be doing realistic supply lines now for
Yeah.
everybody.
the yeah, right. The other one, another question I always talk about the rests.
Yes.
How do you want to rest? There, I think we talked about this before. Being
Regular, heroic,
yeah,
milestone.
is this realistic? Kind of realistic? Is
Yeah.
this, is this just heroic? Y'all are just superheroes, or how are we gonna do this?
I feel like everybody used to do milestone, and now nobody does milestone rests. Everybody does milestone XP, but nobody does milestone rests. Milestone rest was after 2 encounters. It's as if you had a full rest.
Oh,
And that used to be like the thing. When I was playing 3, 5, and 4, that was the thing.
I don't
Everybody
remember-
did that.
I don't remember ever doing that.
And nobody does it anymore. And it doesn't bother me because I think that's way OP. Like,
Well-
casters are immediately better.
Yeah. Well, I also remember a lot more things not having. Like I said, I'm second edition though.
Yeah.
Being after a day.
Yeah.
The next sunrise.
Man, dailies have kind of just gone,
Those
right?
have. And D&D 5e is fantastic. Okay.
Yes.
Having
But
said
it killed days.
that, it killed days. Also, magic in 5e is a little bit. There's too many things that just that happens.
Right.
There's no
Yeah.
consequence for fighting with the elemental forces of the universe
Right.
and bringing them, ripping them through space time
Yeah.
to do something that you want it to do. It's like
Wild magic has that now.
yeah.
Even though everything else can be way more destructive.
Which I understand it's a little bit more a little bit of hypocritical because I love the fact that magic missile just happens.
Yeah.
If you don't have a shield, you're getting peppered.
But I think that was what made Magic Missile special back in the day,
Yeah.
is that it always hit.
Yeah. Well, I still think there's too many spells that just automatically happen.
Yeah.
That are on the DM.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you need to roll a dexterity save, everything. That's minor nitpicky thing.
Right.
Magic is powerful. Magic is dangerous. The wild magic does bring a little bit to that, but at the end of the day, I just think something could be done.
Yeah. No,
With it.
I agree.
But
I think with just a couple tweaks.
yeah, The well, okay. So that was some good questions for session 0. I'm trying to think of a couple more because you're good. Like you were saying, you're going to get talked to. Do you do proficiency dice, or are you just going to use proficiency? Which I want a game where we use proficiency dice.
Yeah. Are we rolling for hit points, or are we taking the average?
Right. Or is it up to the player? You
Yeah.
know, how are we doing that?
Are we confirming crits?
And so, hey, do you want to be good guys? Do you want to be bad guys?
Right.
Which I would say for the first one, be the good guys.
Yeah.
Be heroes, rock and roll, all that. You've got the stories there, but I like doing an evil campaign every once in a while,
I do
but
too.
I can't help but at some point in time it just gets a little bit cheesy.
It does.
And in a good way.
That's why you gotta lean into it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like your villains don't need to be edgy McEdgelord unless that's their name,
Right.
and that's the point.
Oh man.
But they need to be like I'm talking Dio Brando from JoJo's here as a villain. I'm just like, I'm evil. The Emperor Palpatine is on your squad, I'm evil and I know it and I love it.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a blast.
Right.
I'm going to walk into town and I'm going to fire chain lightning and everything.
Oh,
And
man.
then as I do, I'm going to snicker. It just,
Yeah. Let loose with it.
yeah, you gotta have that fun. I think so too, though. I think we've covered the main things of a session 0. The last big thing that I would say is how we doing stats. We doing opening stats, opening gold. We doing gear, I guess too. Those 3.
Yeah.
We doing point buy. We doing rolled stats.
I will throw a little
Standard
tip here.
array.
Standard array is probably gives you the best kind of well-rounded character.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have strengths and weaknesses. Absolutely set there.
Right.
And you can say, okay, the strength, constitution. This is I'm the physical character, I'm the mental character, and you're gonna have stuff you have to make up for in creative ways, which is what as I said before, finding the hero in 5e is not hard. It's getting over the weaknesses that really make the characters cool.
Right.
Proficient dice. What were you talking about in the last one?
Gear and gold.
Gear, gold,
And,
stats.
Yeah, we rolling them, we buying them, we doing standard array.
Yeah.
Because I think a big confusion is how much gold do I give my players? How do I give them some good gear to start off with?
I tell you what, a fun
Depends
way.
on the background to me.
But true. But I tell you what, a fun way to start is they're imprisoned.
Yeah.
I
agree.
That's it worked in Oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
So and I like that start one way or another where they start with almost nothing.
Yeah.
But if you want to do the classic, they're meeting in a tavern. Yeah. Then you do the do the starting equipment. Do they have it? Do they have an heirloom?
Right.
If you're doing this big story, as a DM, are there
absolutely.
special items that for some reason these characters have that tie into the story? So a lot of things, especially as you start wrapping up your session 0, you're going to start and you're talking about and kind of refining the world that you're going to be playing in. To a fault, I'm a little bit of a purist.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, well, we're gonna have time travel going in, so there might be a car, modern stuff. It might be fun to play.
Yeah.
That's not the campaign I really want to be in,
Right.
though. And that's just like other stuff through session 0.
Absolutely. I think I'm a bit of an oddity as well in that I like uneven campaigns. I don't like it to be fair. And I don't mean combat wise. I mean like starting. I mean, one player has one thing because of their background. Another player might not have something as good.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I
their
understand
background
that.
doesn't give it to them.
Right.
And to me, there's something interesting about, because I know the idea is, well, everybody's on even footing.
Yeah.
They don't have to be, though.
No.
Because it's interesting to me when it is a group of misfits.
Yes.
You have the royal that maybe
Yeah.
they even have a servant.
Yes.
And they got a lot more gold. And then you have the thief off the street and they have almost nothing. But they have these skills that the royal doesn't have, you know? And
Yes.
to me, that's way more fun than everybody's on the even footing.
Well, as far as running a group, it's much funner to run a group. It would be much funner to run Suicide Squad than Justice League.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
If you're going to run that game.
Oh, that would be such a fun campaign to run.
I mean, it's just the way role playing is set up. Honestly, goofy stuff, bad thing happens, and everybody laughs when the barbarian rolls one and trips on his own feet.
Yeah.
Or just misses wildly. That's yeah. So I don't know. That was pretty good coverage of session 0.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of lining in, pick the world, characters, classes, and that's stuff that's gonna look through. And our advice before was keep it real basic.
Oh yeah.
As you're starting out.
Don't be afraid if you're DMing a campaign and your world doesn't have a race
Oh,
for whatever reason, because you've written up the lore and that race just isn't available.
Right.
Because they're not super common.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to tell the player no, you can't play that race, but also maybe go, hey, if there's only a few of them left, maybe it would be interesting if one of my players was one of the last remaining ones.
Yeah.
Balance it. Don't
Right.
just go, well, no, you can't play that because I don't want that race.
No,
But consider it.
Yeah, you don't. You don't have to give your player. This is the world I'm running. This is the history. You don't have to give them all that. You polish it up. Give them a quick outline. Say,
Yeah.
This is what I want to run. As an example, our Sunday campaign. It's like this is what I want to run a classic, like the basic races.
Yeah.
I just want to have fun, keep it simple, and go with it. So yeah, we started out with the 4 basic races. Kept the subclasses pretty simple.
Yeah.
Same with feats and everything, and kept it really basic, and it works great for that campaign. The Centaur wouldn't work.
Right.
Changeling wouldn't work. Now,
No matter how hard I tried to get Ryan to let me play a centaur.
but another thing, session 0, take notes that don't get used, because that campaign's going to come to an end at some point.
Oh, and that's another big thing. Like session 0, don't bring your DM like full notebook of backstory on your character, but don't be afraid to be like, hey, here's my character. Here's what they've been through. If you're okay with that, DM, here's their little light backstory, because the DM can then go, oh, that gives me ideas.
Absolutely.
And can take from that and integrate it into the story. I think it's way more fun for the story when your players interact with the world, connect with parts of it, and the DM goes, I see a connection there. I'm going to leverage this.
Well, this is a lesson I learned, and it reflects on the way I DM now. I will have a few scenes in mind.
Yeah.
As a go, and then the actions that y'all take.
Right.
If y'all decide to follow this one. Like I think we brought the thing. You had 2 options on that one quest where you could have gone to the Blighted, gone to the Orcs.
Right.
And you actually save some people because y'all went to the right one first.
Right.
There would still been a big saving anyway. So the player input, even outside of session 0, as you're going through the campaign, things that the players say, do, or want to go look at, doesn't derail you.
Use it,
and be flexible. You can move if you've got to move a clue. Move a clue.
And like a good example of that, in my opinion, is, and granted, I'm tooting my own horn here. In my campaign, I started my group off in Sigil, the City of Doors.
Right.
Extra planar realm. They eventually made it to the material plane. Their quest was to go and get a key to bring it back to Sigil to the changeling they were working for.
Nice.
They chose not to go do the quest because they didn't trust the changeling, which is fair.
Yeah.
And so I could have been like, well, I mean, really, I need you to go do the quest. But instead I went, okay, let's let this play out for a couple sessions and see what happens. So then they decided they wanted to go to the Mountain of the Dwarves, which was one of the players' homes.
Right.
And when they got there, it had been attacked by the person who held the key. So then they wanted to go get the key, and I never had to, out of character or out of story, be like, okay, but you should go get it, because they knew that guy was a threat.
Absolutely.
And so it just doubled down on the fact that, hey, all of this is connected, and it made that player care so much more about the story than they did before.
I think this is where I fall apart on Book Quest. I think this is where I fail at Book Quest.
Yeah, I agree.
Because somebody will go, oh, I'm going to go look over here. Because somebody's going to point at something on the map that's not labeled anywhere. And I'm going to go, oh.
What's this thicket of trees right here?
Right. I'm not going to tell them no.
I agree. That's my problem with pre-writtens as well. A pre-written adventure is great, but as soon as somebody goes, well, I'm going to go off the beaten path.
Yeah.
Throw the book out, because you might as well.
Now, I would love to sit down at a table with a Forgotten Realms master. Which I really here's a gripe. I really wish D&D would point that out that the main world that they're talking about in the PHB
Yes.
and everything is the
Yes.
Forgotten Realms world.
I agree.
You know, not anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
All the history and everything. Now it does give other charts and stuff. When they're talking about how the races act,
Yeah.
how they're seen, how they're viewed,
Just in Forgotten
it's
Realms.
just in Forgotten Realms.
Mhm.
None of that is set in stone.
Yeah.
Which is another good thing to bring up in session 0.
That's the reason why we have all these variant races, because we have Exandria now with Critical Role, and we have Eberron now, and the races interact differently in those worlds.
Absolutely.
So we have Exandrian Tiefling, or Exandrian Dragonborn, and
Yeah.
it's like, that's fine, but if we hadn't specified, then we wouldn't have to specify here, and we could just have Dragonborn with a footnote.
It used, when like in the second edition, second edition way back in the day. This is something I'm missing in fifth edition. We're just rambling. We've got their points across. So if you're just learning, we're gonna ramble for a little bit now.
Yeah, now that we've hit everything on the docket, now we're off the rails.
Every world that was put out for second edition had a different feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a totally different environment, and Dragonlance is super high fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
absolutely.
Just beautiful, magical world. Forgotten Realms, much more gritty. Everything kind of fit, and it's like they don't want to. In fifth edition, you don't get the other campaign settings.
Right.
You're just supposed to take this campaign setting and adapt it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a little unfair to the DMs that are getting it, especially as big as it is now.
Absolutely.
There's so much stuff. There's so many races, so many feats, so many subclasses and stuff. And then when you get to the DM side, it's like, okay, well, here's some adventures that take place in this one world.
Right.
Honestly, the only it's everything's there, because even Curse of Strahd, that's the Shadowfell, which is playing off.
The
of
only
Forgotten
thing
Realms.
that's not is the Exandrian adventure, because that's in a different universe.
Right. But now
I don't know. Is there an Eberron adventure as well? There might be. But that would be about it.
Yeah. Well, you got Ravnica.
Yeah, Ravnica. Yeah,
Ravnica, which that's a Magic the Gathering place.
Yes, which is a cool idea.
Yeah.
Like, again, why not have all these crazy settings? As a DM, you want to be able to apply yourself to a world.
Yes.
Like, just take a setting. It would be so simple in my mind, and this is where we get into the theoretical. So simple to release a Dungeon Master scenario book that just has like, hey, here's 35 different settings in this world, and it's stuff that you might not even have thought about that you wanted.
Now, on that note, there is so much extra stuff out there.
Yeah.
If you're trying to start a campaign or a one shot and can't think of it, type in one shot adventures ideas in Google, and you're going to get thousands of them. Tell you what, dude, what is it, Wild Sheep's Chase?
Yeah.
Look up that quest. Run that as your first adventure.
Yeah. Or steal from video games.
Oh yeah.
If you're like you again, we talk about like it's your first day DMing. You need an idea, no problem. Take a video game, take a book, take a movie, and go. Okay, we're in de facto fantasy world. And then there's Terminators, and don't call them Terminators. Call them Eradicators.
Yeah.
But then there you go. You got a plot for a campaign right there.
Right.
Based off, hey, these people are having to deal with the fact that these warforged are coming from the future. Like, what are we going to do to stop them? How did they get here? Why are they here? Or even just the basic Mad Mage thing that, like, Raceland's here. Like, name him Caseland, and there you go.
Well, speaking of that, what is the back of... There's back of one of them. You've got the Archmage, just like where it gives like the bandit. The the Archmage there. That is a perfect villain.
Yeah,
lined out for a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Very destructive. If you're planning, if you want to go 1 to 10, I think he would be a really good. Throw a couple of minions beside him. Depending on the size of your group you're taking against him, and that's your arch villain right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not. I think we're trying to get. One of the points we're trying to make in this is it's easier than a lot of people make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here, here in the next podcast or two, we'll actually do some examples of actually playing through a scenario. We'll do it a couple of different ways. Just so you're not getting that one, just one view of how to DM.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think it can be very intimidating.
Oh yeah, I think back when I first started, I didn't know what I was getting into, and now I love it.
Yeah,
because it's literally the gloves are off. I can make whatever I want. Right. If I wanted to make a D&D campaign right now where the world is Arctic campaign, I'm literally just going top of my head right now. Arctic campaign, polar bear race.
Okay.
They run it. The penguins have to rise up to try and retake the north. Yeah. I can do that in 5e.
Right on.
I can do that. Penguins?
Yeah.
Penguins go by halfling stats. That's where I'm going to go with.
I'm seeing it.
The polar bears, they have owlbear stats. They're real tough. But you get enough penguins together, you level them up a little bit, they can take down a polar bear. And again, that's just a dumb scenario, right?
Right? Yeah,
But you can roll with it. That's what D&D is.
Happy Feet, the last airbender,
there you go.
Absolutely. I do love the don't be afraid to reskin.
Yeah.
The Dragonborn doesn't have to look like a dragon. You can say, no, in my world, they're actually lizards.
Well, Matt Mercer made them rat creatures instead because he wanted a rat race.
Yeah.
And he said, well, Dragonborn already filled that role, basically. Yeah. What if instead of dragons, they were rat people?
Yeah. That reskinning can bring a lot of fun to a D because you can keep it basic D&D, but you can just really change the atmosphere. Yep. Change the environment and the habitat that you're going through. Mm-hmm. I still think there's it doesn't lend itself so well to sci-fi or stuff when you get into where you're having a lot of mechanical. Yeah. I think you can touch in the steampunk, which Eberron does a little bit.
Forged.
Yes. And go through that. So, but at the end, if you're going that far with it, maybe want a little bit, maybe try a different system. Yeah. On it, but there's just in the fantasy realm, you can run a like we talked about it before, just so many stories you can do, and out there just start the story. Yeah. Once you've kind of got down, everybody's like, hey, we want to make the story. I want to be this kind of character. I want to be this. My character's driven by this. This happened to them. Yeah. Cool. Let's play. Then, start the story. Absolutely. And I think you'll be surprised at where it goes.
I think you'll find really quickly, too, player or DM, you wind up really loving to make characters. Just as a DM, you're making characters all the time for NPCs. Yeah. You're just cranking them out because you love doing it. As a player, I'm going to be honest with you. There are times where we talked about losing a character and how much it hurts. There are times where you got 2 sheets waiting. Yeah. For if something happens to that character, because you already had another cool idea and you want to play with it. You like the character you got, but hey, if they don't make it.
That made me think of another question for Session 0.
Yeah, absolutely.
How hard do you want this to be?
Absolutely. That's a great question.
Are we going to laugh and have a good time?
Right.
There needs to be a chance of death. Yes. But how high is that going to be?
Or is it going to be a meat grinder?
Yeah. Is it going to be, where you fall, you fall?
Yeah. I have come to Session 0s where they handed me 3 character sheets instead of 1. Yeah. Said, hey, make 3 characters.
Yeah. And those can be a lot of fun. Yeah. They're not a lot of fun if you're going in for, a Care Bear campaign.
Or even roleplay campaigns, really, in some ways. Yeah. Don't get a lot of time to know that monk.
No. He didn't get to grow as a character before the trap took his head off.
He lived 12 minutes. Oh, Tomb of Horrors.
Huh?
Isn't it called no, it's still Tomb of Horrors. It's the book is
Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah, Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah. Of that. The Tomb of Horrors where they go. Mm-hmm. On that, the meat grinder mode. Yeah. Which, even in meat grinder mode,
that can still be really fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. Now, look, there's such another thing about book quests, kind of weird. And it's something, if you're doing a book quest, or if you've got in your mind that something is impossible for a character to do, don't let them roll if you're not going to let them make it.
100%. If you let them roll, they have to have a chance of success.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
bothers me so much when people go, "We'll roll for it," and then the player rolls really well,
Yeah.
and they go, "Nah, it's not good enough."
Right. And I know there's some places in both. I know in the Tomb of Annihilation, I do believe in the Ravenloft Curse of Strahd.
Yeah, where you
Where
cannot
it's-
you cannot win.
Yeah, you can't, and it tells you, be sure to let your players know.
Yeah,
That goes them through. So even if you're home brewing, so to speak, your own
Right.
campaign, if you got a gap, which jumping rules,
yeah,
if you got a gap, say 20 feet, make sure that they know that they're not going to be able to run and long jump it
Yes.
by rules.
and that's another thing I think is very important. We'll have a whole discussion on like, hey, as a DM, here are things you need to keep on track of. When you describe something, if there's a hole, they need to know it
Yes.
because they would be able to see it. Don't
Yes.
Don't have them roll a perception check and they get like a 12 and go, well, they're not going to see this hole that's right in front of them then. It's like, no, if they get a 2, maybe they're too preoccupied. But if they get
Right.
a 12, they see that hole
Yeah.
that's directly in front of them.
Go through that. Also, if they enter a room, describe your monster last.
Yes.
I will tell you this just because if you say it first, or their target, if you say there's their that they don't care
Right.
about the rest of the room, and there's no point in going on after that.
Yep. And then
So-
you'll get to a spot where you're like, well, the monster's going to move behind this pillar. There was a pillar there? It's like,
Yes.
well, yeah, you didn't
Yeah.
let me finish.
All right. So describe the room first. Let them get that image in their head.
Yeah, 100%.
That's just a small tip. There's some others, just weird things off the cusp. It's not in the rule books.
Another big
That
one for
makes-
session 0.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last week and the week before, I think, but we're
Okay.
probably going to have to keep touching on it. It's not you against the players.
Oh, DMY. Yes.
Yes.
No. No. Not at all. No.
And from a player perspective, it's not you against the DM.
No. And I know it can feel like that.
Yeah. Because
Especially
they control the monster.
well, not only that, but I mean, most of the time when you sit down to a board game, there's not very many cooperative
Right.
board games out there. So it might be a little bit of a foreign concept to them,
Well, and even the
Monopoly,
ones-
I'm against the banker.
Even the ones that are cooperative normally have a traitor.
Right, true. With
So,
that, yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're predisposed to assume somebody at the table's out to get you.
Yeah, and it's not. I guess really think of it as running what's a good video game term? MMO, PVE
Yeah.
is what you're doing.
Yeah. You're just in charge of the E.
Yeah, exactly. Going over that.
The environment is yours to control.
It is. That's
And you don't want the player to quit. You want the player to enjoy their experience.
absolutely. And that's the end of it. And so when we're talking about Session 0, we're doing this because honestly, if you have to use where we use our synergy at your table, not
Yeah.
talking about the group, I'm talking about your players.
Yeah.
With the DM, you're gonna have a good time.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be great.
Yeah, you're gonna have a good time. The story is gonna go,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully you'll have plenty of laughs. You will
Yeah.
get nervous.
Maybe some tears.
Maybe some tears. And
I've seen people I never thought would cry break down crying at the table.
yeah, and DM tip, no DM tip coming up. This goes for players too, but I need read your table.
Yeah.
Read your table. If they're struggling, even if you find it humorous,
Mm-hmm.
if they're struggling with something, if a player died in some ridiculous way.
Yeah.
And you're really trying not to let the players have it because
Yeah.
the player's probably upset. So
Right.
just read your table as you're going through that, and it'll help. It'll help with the story, and it also keep everybody on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through that.
Well, and I think when we go back to that question of, what do we expect out of the game, you can get into a situation real quick sitting at the table where something happens and you notice immediately one of the players is not okay with what just happened.
Yeah.
Somebody goes too far. Maybe they steal from the party.
Yeah.
because you didn't mention in session 0 you weren't going to allow that because you didn't think about it because you assumed nobody
Right.
would do it.
Right.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Maybe they steal from the party. Maybe they attack an NPC without provocation.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do something way worse, which I've been at the table where that's happened.
Yeah.
And a player is suddenly visibly upset. Don't just continue on.
Right.
Don't feel like you have to try and keep the game flowing. Stop and go, okay, that was intense.
Yeah.
We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because that player is, if you just keep going, that player is going to consider if they even want to come back.
Right. And then and on the other side, the other player's going to go, well, I guess that's okay then.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? I'll do that. Yeah.
Pay attention to your table. Like you said, read
right. read your table. It'll help a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing you can do to help your table out, as y'all say, you've got 3 people playing. Do some one shots.
Yeah.
And take turns DMing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just so you can kind of get it from both sides.
Ryan, we have to talk about the forever DM problem. Because if you're new to this, you need to know if you don't start early
It's a trap.
by making someone else in the friend group DM, you're gonna be stuck there.
Yeah.
And it's not even your fault. You're going to do a great job, even though you don't think you're doing a great job. You're going to do a great job. Everybody's going to love it for the most part. They may have a couple small things they didn't like, but for the most part, they're going to love it. And they're going to go, I can't wait for them to do this again.
Yes.
And you're going to go, oh no. Because you wanted to play.
I know.
That's where you get a situation where you get smart and your friends are also DMs.
Right.
Thanks, Ryan.
Well, I got, I get trapped in that. I get trapped in the forever DM quite a bit. One of us is it's time. You know, in high school you can run 3 campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because you're playing at lunch and you got nothing to do after. You know, it's adults don't have quite that time. I do get to play every other week now with a small. It's just me. One other person and my girlfriend's DMing.
Yeah.
On that, we're actually running the starter set. That's another thing. If you're a forever DM, when you finally do get to play, you really don't get outlandish.
No.
I have a 3rd level Ranger Beastmaster. It is straight from the player's hand. There is nothing fancy about this character.
I'm playing a fighter, a human fighter.
You know you've been DMing too long when you look at the champion and go, you know what? That's what I want to be, right? That is the perfect player character right there. That's what I want.
Although, to be fair, I do really want to play a wizard at some point.
Yeah.
Because, like...
See, here's the flip side of that. See,
I'm the dumb wizard.
I want to play wizard, but on the flip side of that, I don't want to play...
I'm not taking Fireball.
A wizard, yeah, exactly.
I don't want it.
See, that's the problem. If I go to the other side,
I'm taking utility magic.
I'm gonna specialize in I don't know something off the wall.
I want
transmutation
grease
or something. Yeah,
I want grease. I want featherfall.
right.
I want long stride.
Yes.
I want mending.
I'm gonna be the wizard in the back going, look, if you're gonna get a fight, I'm not gonna be much help. If you get ready to surrender and run or retreat, I got us covered.
So this is not the time for this discussion.
Not at all.
But I have a character primed in my head that is like an old man that has been a street magician all his life. And now he's roped into the adventure. And he doesn't know good magic because he's a street magician.
You're going to love Shadowrun so much. One of the archetypes is literally a street magician.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah. Who has got roped into having to go on runs.
Because I just love the idea of like, hey, I can't use fireball or like
right.
chain lightning.
Yeah.
But I can grease.
Right.
I can, here's a firebolt. It's
right.
almost a fireball.
Throw that all day, buddy.
Here's magic missile.
Yeah. Going through that.
And just like he thinks he's the best.
Minor illusion.
Yeah. Prestidigitation. My clothes are always clean.
I can't. I always think of for some reason every time I hear prestidigitation, I don't think of D&D. I think of the old Disney Sword in the Stone.
That's fair.
With the,
Yeah, absolutely.
maybe the first time I heard that word. I didn't watch that in the theater. I'm not that old, but I do believe.
Did I get that wrong? Is it thaumaturgy that lets you clean your clothes or prestidigitation?
Prestidigitation.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Thaumaturgy lets you boom your voice.
Yes.
Or make other loud sounds.
Yeah.
I always mix those two. Them and Druidcraft in my head just always get like jumbled.
Well, those are kind of there's some strange spells. It's like, what else we want cantrips to do?
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel like right now all those other spells. Let's just put it as one.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, why do they have multiple effects?
However, if you have thaumaturgy and prestidigitation and a little bit of imagination,
yeah,
you'd be a really cool character just using those two spells, pull off some really neat effects.
I feel like this is why I should never play a wizard, because I want prestidigitation, thaumaturgy, and magic mouth.
Yeah.
So that I can put a magic mouth on something and then have it a boom voice, and then I can run away. We should probably wrap up.
I think so. We covered a lot of stuff, and because I was about to let in the bards, and I looked at a lot. I'm like, you know what? I don't have enough disk space.
We want to do something a little special. Ryan had a great idea about next session, trying to do next session, I almost said next campaign, then next episode, doing a little bit of
stick with session.
I like that. Yeah. Doing a little bit of
full spectrum D&D sessions. No, they're gonna think we're playing.
Yeah,
a game.
then they think it's live play.
Never mind. I'll let you handle this. We need to stop talking.
Of Ryan's idea of maybe dipping into it a little bit to let you see what it's like at base level and then maybe higher is really good. But after that, we want to know what direction you want to see this podcast go in.
Absolutely.
So we're going to run a poll. The poll will go live probably seconds after this episode goes live, because I'll already have it primed up on Twitter and on the Full Spectrum Discord, which you can get into by supporting us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. But
big help.
Yeah, it really, honestly is. But yeah, we're gonna have those options go up. But like, what do you want us? Do you want us to go straight into class? Because we're going to talk about something no matter what.
Yeah.
But if you want a specific thing first, like if you want us to talk about the classes, or you want us to talk about races,
or even just an opinion on a certain thing.
Yeah, how to make a world. How do you feel about dig deep into encumbrance? Yeah. Why don't you like confirming crits?
Yeah. What is that dude's problem with bards?
Yeah. Why does Ryan hate bards so much? Why does Trey want to play a lizard man wizard named Slizzy the Wizzy? We can dig into all kinds of subjects, and I think there's great discussions to be had about all of it. But what do you want us to talk about first is the question, because eventually we do this in our own time already, talking about the weirdness that is D&D and how great it is. So we're going to talk about it anyway. But.
Yeah. Honestly, our planned discussions for the podcast are probably about, all right, well, we can probably cover this in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we need to keep a couple of things to keep on. But please do let us know any ideas y'all have. And like I said, any free resources or any resource that you know that we haven't mentioned that can help somebody get into playing.
Absolutely.
Please put it down in the comments. Let us know. I don't think I have anything else for tonight.
I do want to say I'm really excited for and I don't mean to immediately invalidate the poll, but I'm really excited for when we get into classes, because I want to dig into the good subclasses and the bad subclasses.
Oh, man. Now, all right. Yeah. See, that can go. God, there's so many. Are we going to try to stick basic with that?
Oh, I think we'd have to start basic and then branch out, because there's so many now.
Okay. Well, we will start. One thing I promise you, we're going to start by talking about at least the free stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the good and the bad and the ugly of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's a free for all. So we'll go where we need to.
On our Darkana.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, with all that said, then I've been Trey.
I've been Ryan.
And we've been the Full Spectrum D&D podcast. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum the D&D has to offer.